there's this guy, he makes a lot of shorts and he's really good at explaining what's wrong with society today, why it's being polarized, and the difference between or the take that liberals have, which is the world is systemically evil, and they concentrate on their idea of the world,
Hmm.
their utopian vision, and
Right.
that's true. So they go from what their fantasy about the world into and bring that into the world and judge the world accordingly. And so I'm trying to get that down. But at the same time, when I see somebody doing such a good job at that particular thing, I feel a little bit relieved because I don't have to do that, you know, and he's doing it way better than I can. So I'm using it to, to reorient myself. What is unique about what I have, right? What's
Right.
different about what I teach as opposed to that? And not wanting to get into politics, but to talk about division itself and talk about consciousness itself.
Right. Because there are those two ways to see the world, like what you just mentioned, where, some people think that everybody's naturally evil and other people think everybody's naturally good,
Right,
or
right.
it's something in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of people that are more or less good, but there are the bad ones too. So,
Right, right. And it's a little bit well, it's very naive to think otherwise, that
yeah.
everyone is yeah, you brought that out too, how criminals aren't aren't bad people. They've just been corrupted, so to speak, by the system,
Yeah.
so it's not really their fault. And that just
It's
takes away
not,
all
but
accountability.
I mean, yeah, and I agree. It's like maybe when they were a kid, it wasn't their fault. But now
Right.
that they're an adult, they're responsible,
Yeah.
even if it wasn't their fault.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's a good way to put it. They're responsible even though it wasn't their fault. Yeah. Even if you're antisocial, then it's always your choice. You
It's your
can
choice.
refrain from doing something criminal uh, just because you're going to refrain from doing it, whether
Exactly. And
you
then
want to or not. Yeah.
you'll eventually become a different person just by not doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whether it's comfortable or feels good doesn't really matter. It's what you do.
Yeah. Because I think
Yeah.
that's the thing people forget. I mean, not everybody, but people that have been damaged in those ways and they're blaming somebody else, is they forget that you can change, that we can change. We can be whoever we want to be.
Right.
Even if we were treated really badly, we can say, "Hey, I don't want to react to that. I want to be a different kind of person."
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a strong message, That's something that I hear a lot more, but then I realize that my feed is showing me things like that, things that are more balanced and rational. And the people that most need to hear that will never see it.
No, they wouldn't, would they?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So there's that thing we talked about last time, which was if the Neptune influence holds true, then where the Neptune Saturn conjunction in Aries, that it's likely to create more entrenchment on both sides than it is to reveal what's false. That's kind of what I'm concerned about that, you know, because that's a bad recipe.
That's really bad. Yeah, because
Yeah,
both sides will get entrenched and then the disagreement will get higher. Yeah,
right, right,
conflict.
right.
And people won't communicate.
Yeah, so
Already bad enough.
I guess there's the only thing to do. There's also those people on the left. I've noticed yeah, and I've noticed this for the past year when after the change in the administration, people, a lot of people on the left gave up. They just
Mm.
started retreating from it all and saying, like I've had it. I can't deal with this, which is kind of a small step towards rationality, but in some ways it's not. In some ways it's just going into fetal position.
Yeah, not listening.
Yeah. But I
Mm.
have noticed in some people that I've talked with recently, who who are showing a shift. They're more responsive to rational analysis or critical thinking about some of these issues, whereas before they wouldn't even discuss it. If you disagree with them, then they just shut it down.
Mm.
They
Well, that's good to
retreat.
hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm noticing a shift. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that we need to keep talking about it, but it requires people like us who are straddling both sides. We have kind of a foot in both worlds because we both associate with people uh, who are very left leaning, but we also associate with people who are very right leaning.
Hmm.
And so I think if there are more people like that, then they become the bridge. Give the best possible chance for people who find them when they find themselves, when they admit or if they realize that they are confused, then that kind of dialogue will uh, will bring them into a place where they can better hear what what there is to alternative viewpoints. So
Well, that would be nice. It's so hard to talk to people who are extreme on one side or the other, though.
yeah,
It's, mm. I mean, because I'll mention somebody that's on the opposite side that I know that's a good person and shares the basic values, which we should talk more about values, but share the same values, but they're expressing it differently. And I can just feel them distancing themselves. It's like, but that person's on the other side. And so they don't want to hear that there's a good person on the other side.
right. But that's the message, isn't it? If you
Mhm.
can get people to realize, oh, that person is a good person, and that's like the next step. The first step is to realize that they share the same value.
Yeah, the values.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that's at the core of the shadow work. So, the way we're approaching is that we're starting with values, and so that could be a really powerful bridge. That's what I'm interested in, is to find these bridges because so many of the people that I associate with, people that um, they're they're way farther left than I am, and and yet they love and respect me as long as I don't say anything.
Oh no. Oh no. That doesn't work because that's not communication. So
That's not communication, right? That's half communication,
yeah, it's
right?
halfway.
Right. So I think you're right. I think talking about values really is where, if we keep talking about that, basic values like fairness, because
Yeah,
that's their big one is fairness.
fairness. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But it is, I mean, fairness is one thing, but then when you apply it in reality, that's where like the two sides apply it differently.
right. Yeah, they frame it differently.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or somebody else has framed it and they accept the framing is really what it is.
Yes.
Because you got to analyze the framing. It's like, why is this framed this way?
Exactly. That would be a good pry bar.
Hmm.
You know, Stick that in the jam. See if something pops open. I think I told you this, didn't I? That we watched Fences.
No, maybe not.
Oh, okay. No, I must have told somebody else. Anyway, Fences with Denzel Washington and Viola Davis,
I
and
didn't see it. So.
it's now one of my favorite movies.
Really, I'll have to watch it. I'll write that down. It's just called Fences.
Yeah,
Huh, okay.
yeah, and it's written by a black playwright named August Wilson, who now is one of my favorite screenwriters.
Interesting.
It's so powerful, and it's not about systemic racism because the
Hmm.
guy was it's like it takes place in the 50s, and he's a garbage collector, but because he's black, he was never allowed to be a driver.
Hmm.
But finally, he gets to be a driver, but that doesn't mean it's better or worse.
Hmm.
It's just theirs, it belongs to them. And I don't know, I just found it very moving. And
Well, I'll watch it. How does that fit into spiritual work? How do you bring it into spirituality, or is it even appropriate? Because it just seems irrelevant at that level.
what seems irrelevant?
Like to take some oppressed group or a historically oppressed group, and I don't know how I just don't even understand how it's relevant to spiritual work. Like,
Yeah. Well, to me, it's if your entire thinking is based on Marxism, then
hmm,
that's a problem, you know.
yeah,
Because if you see the world in black and white like that, and where if you're wealthy, you're evil, essentially,
right. You're just an oppressor, no matter
yeah,
what you do.
no
Yeah,
matter what you do, right?
yeah,
So I think that is a spiritual problem because it's anti-truth, you know.
yeah. I mean,
To
there
the
are oppressed groups, especially historically, but it just doesn't make sense to define who we are. Like, am I an oppressed person or an oppressor?
right.
Yeah,
Well, if we divide the world up into oppressors and oppressed, then that just leads to war.
it
Yeah,
does.
personally, societally, civilizationally, even, it just leads to war. So that in itself would be anti-Christ, you know.
Mhm.
So I'm not finding anything about Marxism that rings true, except maybe the dehumanizing part of
Yeah,
working
there
in a
are
factory,
some things. Yeah.
right? But even
And
there, we've
truly,
made,
I mean, sometimes people have been oppressed, but it's one thing to take, like, I'm a woman, so I can say, well, women have been oppressed, so I'm anti-men. I could say that. I'm
right,
against men. I'm just going to spend my whole life trying to tear down men,
yeah,
rather than saying, okay, women aren't oppressed anymore. We're now considered equal. Why don't we help build women up?
exactly.
Like I think that's okay if you want to help build people up, but to look to try to tear somebody else down, whether they're rich or white or male or whatever, it's like
Right.
it just doesn't make sense.
Well, it's that it gets down to victim consciousness.
Yeah.
That's really, I think, at the root of it. And to understand what that is spiritual. I mean, you have to, I get your question. I see I see where the two pieces of cloth need to be stitched
Mm,
together, or maybe unstitched and realigned, or
yeah.
something's off.
Yeah. I mean, because I think of the activists where they would say, well, let's all the oppressed people should join together to fight for, their equality.
Right.
Or, and I was wondering if this victim consciousness, is this a shadow, and how would you explain it?
Yeah.
Is it, or is it something completely different? You know, it's like a thought form. It's really a thought form.
Well, it'd have to, if we look at it in terms of the value,
Hmm.
underlying value,
Yeah,
then fairness certainly would be
fairness.
close
Hmm.
to the center of that.
But they also bring in a form of justice that I think isn't very healthy.
Right.
So I think justice is another of the values. But, justice doesn't mean you go tear down other people.
Exactly.
You might defend the people, defend the people that need it.
Yeah. Well, I think the spiritual, I'm trying to get down to the bottom floor, what's at the basis of this? And what I get is that life is hard,
Yeah.
I mean, we need clothing, we need shelter, we need food, and none of that is easy. It's
No.
all very difficult, especially in harsh environments, which most of the planet is,
Mhm.
If you go south to get warm, you're going to cook in the summertime, or you're going to, die from the humidity in a
Right.
rainforest. you know, I mean,
And
it's
this
just,
is where cooperation comes in.
yeah. So maybe where it boils down to is like the book of Job.
Hmm.
Job's basically this happy-go-lucky guy. He's got everything going for him, and the devil says, "Yeah, he loves you, but because look how good his life is." So, start throwing monkey wrenches into that and see if he still likes you, right?
Right.
And so I think this victim consciousness has to resolve down to hating being a human being on this planet because of the will of God.
I think you're right. This fits in with my experiences. Yeah.
Does it?
So it becomes an anti-human sentiment. Hmm.
How do you see anti-human?
Well, there's a lot of people that want humans to go extinct among the activists. They think the whole world would be better off without humans in it.
Yeah,
That's what I mean.
that's about as extremely genocidal as you can get,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there. So what would I mean if people see the world without human beings as somehow holy and more sacred than as the most sacred thing, and then all that people do is despoil it,
Hmm.
then people are the problem, and we should get rid of the people,
Hmm.
as though the world itself is the highest conception of good.
Hmm.
And call me crazy, but I think that's insanity to think
Yeah,
that
I
way.
think so too. And the thing is, it's a form of self-hatred.
Right.
I mean, because we are one of humanity.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So self-hatred would have to come from shame,
Mhm.
guilt and shame,
Which
just
does
like,
come from being victimized, in whatever form, even like kids that are bullied, you know.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So all of this it keeps pointing back to basic spiritual
Yeah.
premises.
So this
Just,
really is, if you have self-hatred, then you're projecting on everybody else,
and then you hate everybody else.
and then you hate everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a sad situation.
Hmm.
So basically, life is hard and we're pissed.
Mhm.
Yeah. Which is, to me, is anti-Christ, because it seems like the message of Christ is, yes, life is suffering and it ends badly for everyone,
Yeah.
but it's still worth living.
But there's joy in the process.
Yeah, yeah, there's
Yeah.
opportunity for beauty and truth and
And
goodness.
it's an adventure and a challenge, and it's fun to face, even
Y-
though,
Yeah,
sometimes it makes us afraid
yeah,
or
and
angry or however, we
yeah, and it
look at it.
hurts.
Yeah.
Something bad happens, you get hurt in a car accident and you're stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. You can either crumble under that, or you can, like so many people do, push
Yeah. Or
forward
find
and
something useful to do with your life anyway.
exactly, you
Yeah.
know, it just gives you greater resistance to push against and grow that much more.
So this really is a framing too. It's just two different ways of framing the suffering.
The suffering, right. Yeah. So this is really, I think the Achilles heel in the victim consciousness
Hmm.
is to go after that, is to keep reframing suffering.
Hmm.
I like what C.S. Lewis said. He said it's when you finally figure out that Earth is a school, it makes life a lot easier.
It does. Yeah.
So so the opposite of that would be like a sense of entitlement.
Hmm.
If I believe that I should have everything handed to me, that's kind of an infantile frame of mind.
Yeah.
And our
Yeah.
society really has been pushing infantilism for a long
Hmm.
time,
Yeah.
you know,
I
vanity,
mean, if
narcissism.
everybody gets everything handed to them, who's going to do the work eventually? I mean, eventually,
Right.
nobody.
Yeah, and it's not that we can't help people, help each other, but for God's sake, don't promote the the idea of entitlement.
Yeah.
Don't I've been resisting for a long time, and I forget when it started, but I think it was back in the 90s maybe. Advertising and a lot of other places would say, "You deserve this.
Right. Yeah.
This is the best, and you deserve it." And that would grate against me. It's like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah. What's deserved got
Why
to
do
do
I
with
deserve it?
anything?
You know?
Yeah. What's the movie about that where that's the ending? What's deserved got to do with it? What's
Oh,
that Western movie?
oh, yeah. I think you're talking about.
It's the opposite though, because he's like killing somebody,
Yeah,
But
it's in Unforgiven.
yeah, it's it. But it still works both ways. It's like if people think they deserve things, it's like, well, that's not how life works. We don't get what we deserve.
Yeah, yeah. The young kid finally gets up the courage and he shoots the bad guy,
Yeah,
and he's trying to justify it to the old hardened
that's what it is.
killer, saying,
Hmm.
"Well, but he had it coming, didn't he? He had it coming." And Eastwood looks at him and says, "Kid, we've all got it coming."
Yeah,
You know, that's the
mm,
once you
that's
make your peace with that, though, then it makes life a lot easier.
it does.
Yeah. Instead of being surprised when things start falling apart, you know, I mean, things fall apart, and at the end, your body falls apart, and
Yeah.
that's just how it goes. You know,
Yeah.
make the best of it while you can,
Yeah.
because making the best of it is the point of life, not
Mm,
living forever.
yeah.
You know, but that entitlement consciousness says, no, you deserve to live forever. So we're going to work real hard to make us live longer and longer and maybe defeat death altogether. And it's like a fool's errand.
Yeah. I feel disinterested.
Yeah,
I mean, because at some point it's not going to be comfortable to live. At some point we're just done. And I'm
right,
okay with that.
right, right. Yeah, if I mean, it would be hard to live forever and not become cynical.
Yeah. Hmm.
That would be a real challenge.
It's
So,
hard enough anyway.
yeah, right. It's funny. They say that the older you get, the more conservative you tend to get.
Yeah, I've noticed it in myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and people think, well, that's just a sign of old age or something like that. But no, I think it's because we've lived longer and we're smarter now,
Yeah.
and we can see bullshit when we when we
Yeah.
when we hear it.
I know experience is valuable.
Yeah,
And it's like, oh, wait, if that didn't work, let's not do that.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of between the lines on that one.